In three, two. Today, we're talking about something that most leaders never stop to examine, and that is motive. Today, I'm joined by Jill Macauley. She is from Behavioral Essentials, and we're diving into motive as it relates to leadership. Because leadership isn't just about what you do, it's about why you do it. And the why is often where the biggest blind spots live. And so I actually took the blind spot test earlier today. We'll give you the code at the end of the show so you can also take it. And I discovered some blind spots in as it relates to my leadership style. And I'm so interested in this now. And I'm so excited to talk about this because it did offer me insight into some of the blocks that I may be dealing with on a daily basis. So, Jill, it's so good to have you back.
It's wonderful to be here, Lisa. I'm definitely excited for today's conversation and so appreciative that you took the time to take the assessment as well.
Yeah, I'm one of those that has to dive into the experience to really understand it. And I'm so glad I did because I learned a lot about myself in it. But before we talk more about that and what I learned and what you learned about yourself, let's talk about what motive in leadership means. What are we talking about when we refer to motive in leadership?
It really is the heartbeat of why you get out of bed every morning. And many of us think, "Oh, I just go to work, get my salary, get my paycheck." And for some that's perhaps kind of the necessities of life. But for many of us, there is a greater motive behind what we do. And that often lives in the unconscious. It's not something that's kind of at the forefront of our to-do list. And for us, we focus in on that hidden why beneath what we do and why we do it in three big categories. And we pull from the research of David McKellen and thinking about the motive for achievement. So, wanting to get things done and accomplish things, the motive for affiliation, the desire to belong and be liked and feel connected and build relationships, and the desire for power and control. And many of us can say motive sounds like a bad thing, right? Like, oh, you think motive, you think of like, why did they commit that crime? That's when the last time you maybe have used motive in your
Totally.
everyday language. Really,
What was their
we
motive
all,
behind that? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Like we do all have motives and we have some combination of all three of those in us. They're in each one of us has varying degrees in which kind of our internal mechanisms kind of drive us to one of those. And the interesting piece is you don't often process the why you're doing something because you're just like, I got to get it done. And that's when we go into this like default way of operating. And really, what I want to keep talking about with you, Lisa, is this concept of blind spots. So things that get in really us getting in our own way that impacts our performance as leaders, as humans, and in all of our relationships. And what that means is when we don't understand why we're doing something, it is likely that we are going to miss key pieces of data, insights, and understanding. And that is the concept of blind spotting.
Well, how is motive different from intention?
Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of overlap in terms of like the output, like it drives behavior, it kind of gets you out of the bed. And you can say, intention is to accomplish something. But motive is often deeper than just the intention. And the intention is the action that you're looking for. But if I think about, like, for me personally, my driving motive is achievement. And I very much function with like a high level of speed often because I'm like, I got to get all these things done. I always am focused on getting everything done. And that comes out in the speed in which I do things. So my intention is to kind of do a lot of things and like get the task done. But I don't understand if I don't understand that it's really about this desire to be accomplished and to seek achievement. There can often be a disconnect in that understanding. So intention being much more conscious and motive can live a little bit more in that unconscious behavior lens.
You pointed out motive is essentially pretty often invisible to us. And so, why are we so bad at seeing our own motives clearly? Like, what are the common hidden motives leaders operate from?
I don't think so. I'll answer the question: why don't we often see our motives? There is a lot in our journey that is more about the surface level engagement of, oh, like, hi, I'm Jill. I'm a COO of Behavioral Essentials. Let me just, help provide you with a coaching service for your firm. Like, but why do I take that role? There's a lot, you don't practice those questions. There's not a lot of people in your life. If you go through early education, like asking you, like, why are you doing what you're doing? Because it's not a practice, especially in like Western societies, to really think about that why. Because we kind of, as a collective, again, I'll lump it into Western societies. We're lumped into this achievement, like capitalistic, get things done, make more money, just do, do, do. And in that pace and cadence, we don't practice reflection very often. And so it doesn't come up in the forefront of, like, it doesn't feel like a necessity in going for your promotion. Like, I'm applying for a job because I'm really good at doing it, so I'm gonna do more of it. Or like, so you can see even in like the hiring process where it would be elusive. And it's not often until you're at the highest realm of leadership where you're really asked about vision, which that's when you start seeing leaders be like, I don't know what my vision is. Aren't I just supposed to make more money today than I did yesterday? So it is about a practice and a rhythm of exploring why you're really doing what you're doing. Like, why did you take this job? Why did you stay in this job? What about this job actually excites you? And you can, I don't know, when's the last time you asked yourself those questions? So I think it's really about, in our society, we don't create the space for asking that type of question and practicing that type of reflection. So it's allowed to live hidden, and we just focus in on the actions and the behaviors that are at that surface level and react to those. And as I said, there are many different types of motives, but really focusing in on the three key, that affiliation, achievement, and power control, is those are the three most activated in business today.
Yeah. And so the blind spot I discovered is so powerful. So I read the chapter in the book that you guys derived this concept from on motive and learned a lot about myself today. And I was telling you about what I learned about myself before we hit record. And it gave me this aha moment. So your blind spotting test is so powerful because I didn't realize, like I was telling you earlier, that my motivation is never about the money side of things or the achievement. Like I don't need to be the center of attention. I don't need to be in a power position. I like achieving, I like making money, but that's not the center of everything. And I realized that my lack of motive in that area could actually be harming the company that I'm working for as a whole because that's not my motivation. And so I never thought of it like that before. I'm kind of just going along my day, doing my thing, enjoying what I'm doing without that motive. But discovering that blind spot is making me look at the whole situation a little bit differently. And it's challenging me in a way that I wouldn't have thought of before.
I too am very similar to you, Lisa. Like, I definitely am not money motivated. I love working. Like, I'm in a helping field, a professional service field, a coaching field, for a reason, because I enjoy people. I enjoy connecting with people. I enjoy being liked by people in some regards too, like you. And in that journey, you're like, oh, that felt so good. That conversation was so great. And that you just feel good at night. And sometimes it's easy to forget that we're in business too. And we have to make money off these because we just want to help the people and connect with the people and enjoy the people. And it can play out, especially if you and I, neither one of us are the CEOs of our company. So thankfully, hopefully, there's some people around us that have diversity of motive, because that's the piece here too, is why does this matter? Well, if you and I were building a company, we would want someone who is really motivated by winning and motivated by that influence and achievement of a successful business. And so you want to think about your executive team and the diversity of motives. Sometimes those things can create conflict because diversity is different, and without greater understanding, it's easy to be like, why are you just trying to make more money today than you help more people? Like, and can't we just help more people and then won't the money come? Like, you can hear these discussions that play out in the world, but bringing that forward. And then if you think, Lisa, how you work with Stacy and the other team members at the podcast, there's probably a diversity of ecosystems there. And so it's about how does those elements play out amidst a team. And because business is not a solo, for most, it's not a solo sport. It's really challenging if you and I were hanging our own shingle and we were trying to build our business, sell our business, service our business, grow our business, maintain, if you wear all of those hats, it is really tricky because there's certain hats you just don't like wearing because they don't motivate you.
It doesn't feel good. Yeah, and that totally made me look at the whole team in a different way as well, because I was able to pinpoint more of what everybody else was like and how that complements all of us. And thus, in those challenging conversations, with my understanding of those dynamics, it makes those difficult conversations easier because I'm able to see why the other person might be acting that way or doing what they're doing. And it's all for the greater good of the company. But it's just, yeah, it was so interesting. I know that leaders can have super good intentions, but can create negative impact. So, how does motive shape how our actions are received?
Really great question. The piece too, all of these motives are good in nature. Yes, but there is always a flip. And that's really where the kind of tip over into a blind spot that has to be managed. It has to create awareness so that you can scaffold with team members or different systems and support to navigate. But we'll go to achievement first. So achievement being kind of the drive to kind of get things done, have accomplishment, to innovate, to check things off your box list, if you will. Great. You most likely get a lot of things done in the day. Like you are feeling really good because people can count on you. You accomplish what you set out to accomplish, and you're continually elevating because you're doing more things, getting more things done. Like you feel really good. What does that look like on the blind spot side? You might burn out, or you might burn out those around you because it's never ending. Your motive to keep achieving is like the energizer bunny. And so you're constantly coming forward with new ideas, new things you want to get done, and you never feel like there's enough time to get them done. Because that motive changes the way you see time. Because if you're constantly motivated by achievement, you feel like there's never enough time to get things done. And so you probably, at least I can think of a colleague or a former coworker or former boss where you're like, I could feel their sense of urgency every time they came in, and everything felt like a fire. Everything felt like a speed drill, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't. It was just because that's how they perceive time as
Yeah.
a limited quantity. And so that's the flip of an achievement blind spot. Whereas an affiliation blind spot, you want the person that's in a hospice caretaker to be motivated by affiliation. They are so great about caring about other people, taking care of other people. You want, most times than not, like your therapist, your executive coach, your the bedside nurse when you're having surgery, all of those people just to be like hardwired for affiliation because they're going to take care of you. They're going to tend to you. They're going to support you. You feel so good when they're around because they make sure they're really great hostesses and hosts and friends and gift givers and all of the things that make them wonderful. But sometimes in business, you just got to get stuff done and you kind of can't worry so much about the feelings of others. There isn't always that time. And so the flip of someone who's very affiliation motivated is sometimes it's hard for them to walk away from someone in pain or someone who's suffering to tend to the business or the discomfort because they just want to care for everyone and make everyone feel good. So tough conversations can be harder. Managing the financials could be harder. Like the nitty gritty of whatever type of work you're in could just be harder because it's not people oriented.
I remember a leader thinking that they were being helpful, like with someone I worked with, but they were actually like micromanaging everybody. And that was really hard to work with as well. So, what blind spot would that have been?
Most likely, it could have been any of the three. Micromanagement comes out often with when they are trying to regulate. I actually don't think I'll say this. It's more likely than not achievement and power. So they want to get things done. They want to achieve their goals, accomplish what they set out to do, and they get anxious delegating. So they just take it back and do it themselves. The other would be power and control. They feel a loss of power and control. They feel like whatever the project is spiraling out the second that they delegate or give it to someone else. So they come right back and micromanage and make sure that you're doing it the way that they would have done it. So those are,
Right.
it's most likely a combination of the two. And if we looked into their data, they would probably have very high, above average achievement and power motives.
I think I have an example of me, like my motive and impact, how it can create negative impact. I was leading a team, and I'm just super direct, like very direct, and sometimes without emotion. And people would think that I was coming across as being super harsh sometimes, but my motive, I had super good intentions. It was just I'm just able to communicate in that way, and some of the team felt like I was angry or being harsh with them. So I had to really take a look at why they were thinking that when I had zero negative intention, right? It's weird. Like you don't see yourself from the outside. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I feel like I'm so loving and caring, but these people think I'm being harsh. So it's quite interesting.
And that's the whole concept of why it is important to explore this, because many of us, the orientation is to do good. Our intention, to your earlier question, like our intention is to care for the people. You're probably giving direct or kind of instructions, guidance, and they felt like it was like emotionless, too much information because they were wired differently than you are. And it's also part of why you're a good podcast host is you ask direct pointed questions. But the flip is we don't always see the downstream impact of our behavior.
Right.
And that is this important concept to bring forward is every one of our intentions shows up in action or behavior. So our motive shows up in that way. Our emotional capacity shows up in our behavior. Our intellect shows up in our behavior. Our identity, all of those things show up in our behavior. And the perception of that behavior, it's not that we were into the intention. It's more about the perception of that. That is what you have to explore. And if you don't know, like if you don't understand that, like you can jump in and take the reins of the situation and kind of grab control because you're confident in yourself. You believe in yourself to do that, and you jump in. At times that could be perceived very differently. But if you didn't understand that about yourself, you would just be frustrated to be like, what's wrong with these people? Are they just, weak or light, too delicate for the situation? And you can easily make judgments that are inaccurate. And that is the power of self-awareness, is understanding yourself so that you can explore how it's impacted downstream.
Absolutely. So let's talk about trust and motive. So people may not be able to name your motive, but they can often feel it. So how does motive affect trust within a team?
It's very so this is it plays out a couple different ways. One is when the team has diversity of motives. It can be like, well, I'm motivated this way. I don't trust you because you're motivated by something different and I don't understand it. So it is comforting when you have a team that is all motivated by a similar kind of orientation. That is easier to build trust because you can feel like as you said, you can feel people's intentions even if they're not named. So you can feel someone climbing for more power to rise in status, aka get that next promotion. And
Or the money motive, the person just looking at the money side of things, right?
yes, absolutely. Or you can feel um it's when there's a disconnect between the language. If I'm saying, "Oh, I'm not applying for the next job. I just want to be your teammate," but I can feel you withhold information, or I can kind of watch your patterns of behavior that show how you're trying to get more power over me. I'm instantly going to not trust you because you are telling me one thing with your words, but your actions are saying another. And that's where trust can erode for sure. It would be different to say, listen, I do want to grow in my career and I want to figure out how to become a better leader. And I will be applying for jobs that stretch me, but I know there are going to be times and places you have gifts that are better than mine. And there are going to be times and places where I'm going to shine. And how can we learn from each other? Like that's where is full on clarity of what am I trying to accomplish and why am I trying to accomplish those things? and I put that on the table versus pretending I'm not seeking greater kind of elevation and status
Yeah.
or hierarchy.
It's like the number one way to disengage your team, right? And people can feel those things. And if there's that disconnect, it's like causes people to be in this walking on eggshells and like there's an elephant in the room. Because people can definitely feel that. So how do you shift your motive? So how can leaders begin to recognize their own true motives? Where do they start?
The best place is just one, we have an assessment, but two, it's just thinking about like why did I do that? What actually excited me today? The biggest thing we can watch is our own emotional reactions. Emotions are great data points because some of the motive lives in parts of our brain and kind of the unconscious where there's not as easy to access language. And so exploring where am I having an emotional reaction to something and trying to figure out the why. Why did I kind of get triggered at this experience? Why did she frustrate me? Why do I feel like she's getting in my way or this is getting in my way? And just really trying to explore this. This is not something that is often easily accessible. And especially for those that are oriented by power. There's stigma associated with some. If I said I do want to grow or I want to control more things, sometimes that's not always like, especially for a female, like to say I'm motivated by power. You would have all of us would have a reaction, even though it's a fair, absolutely fair thing to be motivated by, because they want to lead and hopefully they want to have power so they can do more good things instead of wanting to have power for just pure power's sake. But it is really, for the most part, working on exploring the emotions inside yourself, because that's the data that is going to help you kind of further explore what is my why. There's all sorts of books on how do you explore these things because it's easy.
There's some examples from the book. It was like, am I trying to help or am I trying to control this situation? Am I trying to understand it or am I trying to be right? Is this about the outcome or is this about me? Do you think that motives can be changed or is the point of, I mean, blind spotting is all about finding these motives that are blind to us. But do you think motives can actually be changed or is it about management of motive?
Most times than not, we're pretty static in our motives. So it's not so much about changing your motive. It's about how does this motive help me in this moment and using it to connect with the energy it brings us. So each one, no matter where you are in business, those three universal motives play out in some way and they all can serve to support the growth of the organization and the future of the organization. So there's not a bad motive. It's more about how does this help me in the role I'm in now? And or am I constantly feeling like I'm getting blocked or like I'm having like I'm just frustrated? Because that's usually a signal that there's like a motive. You're in a role that's not aligned with what actually energizes you and gets you out of the bed every morning. And so when you are in a role where you're not feeling valued, you're not feeling engaged, you feel like you're just constantly hitting brick walls. There's lots of things to reflect on, but that's a very good signal that something is off and like you're not able to like lean into what really is inside of you. But it's not often to change. Like if you really want power, you're most likely going to really want power for the rest of your life.
Right.
It's more about how does that help and serve this team, this organization, this purpose, this strategy of the moment, and being able to call attention to it. Because there are times where, for example, the person that's very motivated by affiliation, the sense of connection and belonging, like they're going to have to do things that are go against that. And it's then just about counterbalancing it. Okay, that day was me doing things I don't like to do, which we all have to do in some days. But in general, how do I see how my role in this organization fits with things that bring me joy?
For sure, as an individual. And then, I mean, my naive brain used to think that I would work best with someone with the same motive. Like, that's what I always thought. And when I think about doing business with someone, I would always want to be with someone that had a similar motive. But this is kind of challenging that thought. And that maybe that would be really challenging because we'd both be going after the same thing. If someone else was, like you said, motivated by that power and money, whereas I'm not, that would create like a powerful team, like a synergistic team that would push us both in those ways. So it's really interesting.
As I was telling you too, like I struggle with that. It's not that I'm not motivated, but I do like money. I like having a salary, but it's not like
Everybody, yeah.
every day I'm not like, let's just make more money today and or like I need to win that deal. But I sure do want my biz dev partners to be motivated and competitive. Like I'm not an overly competitive person either. And it is a dynamic then when you throw in this team. For us, we have a team of really amazing biz dev partners, and they are hungry and they are into winning and they are competitive and they wake up every day kind of wanting to win more business for us. And that's exactly what we want from them. But the nice part is they feel good because they're winning more business for a business they believe in and a business that does really good work. But they're not at all interested in being one of our coaches or facilitators or consultants. They just want to open doors and get us deals so that our coaches and our consultants and our facilitators can do what they do. And that's beautiful too.
Yeah, absolutely. You need both for sure. So if leaders truly understood their motives, what would change?
I think the opportunity, this is a very fun question. So there's a lot we can play with here, Lisa. When people there are other motives out there that the flip is I'm not good enough. I haven't achieved enough. I don't have enough power. No one knows. Like, so like the darker sides of these motives have insecurity, doubt. They have anxiety. And sometimes that side of the motive causes us to run to build something, but we're also running from the doubt, the shame that we haven't achieved enough. We don't have enough power. We're not liked enough. So there is a darker side to this equation. And that is, again, anxiety, nerves. And you see a lot of leaders not recognize that they're just running from their insecurities and anxieties. And so they work really hard. They
Fear,
accomplish a lot of things, take a lot of power, get a lot of things done, get a lot of people to like them, but they don't understand that they're always doing it from a
fear based.
fear-based, a shame-based place without understanding that they're motivated by one of those three universal motives or some combination of that, and not they can't put words to what they're running from or that fear. They're going to live in this running zone that can bulldoze people, climb over people, they can use people. When leaders climb to a place of power and success, always from a fear-based place, they're suffering in their own lives and suffering because there's a contagiousness to it. So the really intense side that I would love to see in the world, if I had this magic wand where people understand and they could say, some days I don't feel like enough. Some days I'm not sure that I'm good enough, or some days I'm not sure that I've actually achieved enough. I've hit 40 and I've never gotten this accolade or this reward. And am I actually good enough in that piece? And if I can't name that achievement was important to me, I'm going to keep running and I'm going to lead into a place that isn't well. And that plays out in business and that plays out in our society and plays out in all of the things that our dear friend Brené Brown talks about in shame-based and the lack of vulnerability. So there's just a flip of it is if we all have awareness of what motivates us, and when that motive tips over into anxiety and fear, we can manage it. We can call it into attention and we can ask for help.
Yeah, awareness, just like anything, is the first step, right? And I love that the world is changing in that way and that people are naming their emotions now. And leaders are stepping up and they're saying, you know what, I'm not okay. And whenever someone does that, I was at a Chamber of Commerce meeting a couple of weeks ago, and one of the leaders stepped up and was like, "I'm so anxious right now. I just have to tell all of you guys." And I was like, I have so much respect for you in that moment. Like it changed. She could have said anything after that. And I would have been like, "You're amazing." It's just you want to relate to people, and leaders are just human, right? And when you can relate to a leader in that way, it just, I don't know, there's something about it just brings them down to earth versus someone who pretends like everything is perfect all the time and they're great. And I just don't buy that.
Goes back to the our conversation about trust. So, if you never admit that, like, anxiety or whatever's spawning that anxiety, it's a little hard to trust someone because 'cause you're like, "I know you're feeling things," because it's palatable in the air usually. But to your point, like, she admitted what was going on, you instantly understood and connected with her, and you had trust right then and there. And that's the power of naming our emotions, naming what's going on, and having the awareness. So it starts with her having awareness to actually say, I'm anxious right now. I know what's going on in me. I have to name it.
For sure. So, Jill, tell us more about the work that you do, where people can find you, and anything else you want to add.
What we do is we focus in on awareness as the catalyst for all. So everything we do is from an individual level to the team level to the organization level is bringing awareness forward. And we do so powered by tools like our blind spotting performance services, which include the assessment and experiences and coaching and keynotes. So people can find us at behavioralessentials.com.
Amazing, amazing. And if people want to take your blind spotting quiz or test like I did, they can use the code SPOT Stacy. Is that correct? To get a discount on it.
Free assessments for them.
Free assessment. So Spot Stacy, and we'll link that website and webpage in the show notes for everyone. I took it. I'm so glad I did.
Wonderful.
So
Yes, thank you.
thank you so much for being here and for talking about motive in a way that most leadership leaders don't look at motive. So I found that this was a very good conversation. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Wonderful.
Yeah. So this is, like I said, some of the work that most leaders avoid because it's internal. But if you truly understand this work, it changes things. It changes the way you lead, it changes your team. So if something in this conversation resonated with you, that's where better leadership starts. So go to the webpage, put in Spot Stacy, do the quiz, figure out what your blind spots are, and that's the beginning to the awareness piece that Jill was talking about. We'll also have Behavioral Essentials webpage in the links in the show notes, so you can also have access to more of what Jill and her team does. So stay tuned for the next episode as we dive deeper into blind spots. And for now, take care, everyone.